So let's go ahead and get started. So my name is Ken Naku. I am a software engineer at DocuSign. Today I'm going to be showing you some cool things that we're working on, as well as the technology that we're leveraging for this. So first things first, of course, forward-looking statements. Don't make any financial decisions or investments based off of the information you're about to hear. Some of the information presented may just be conceptual or is subject to change. All right, so today I'm going to be talking to you guys about Process Builder and invocable actions, some of the benefits around this tool, best practices, and how we plan on leveraging this. So first off, what is Process Builder? So Process Builder allows you to leverage your data in Salesforce to automate business processes, and in doing so with a graphical logic diagram. So here we have this UI. It allows us to easily sequence our logic and execute built-in Salesforce or Apex functionality. So at the very top, we have the ability to select an object. So for instance, I can select an opportunity and I could say evaluate once this record is created or edited. Immediately below that, we have the ability to select filter logic. So I could say if this opportunity is 1, do XYZ. And then the actual doing part, actions. So we have the option of doing two different kind of actions, immediate or scheduled. So immediate action, obviously, as soon as the logic is, or criteria is met, it'll perform the action. And scheduled, obviously, you can set a time for that to fire off. So you could be like, do XYZ at 12 midnight. So I'm going to be talking more about actions. So here we have the ability in Process Builder to leverage Apex or create records, email alerts, etc. So today I'm going to be covering how you can set up an invocable action method. Next. Awesome. So this is what an invocable action looks like. So pretty much, as I discussed earlier, an invocable action can be executed in Process Builder. So first things first, you have to add an invocable method tag. So from here, this will make it visible in Process Builder. So you can define the label, description. Second thing, invocable actions must be static. And then another important thing to note is the input is restricted to a collection of primitive data types or objects containing invocable variables. So if you look at the top, we have an object called invocable action request. We have two different parameters there. So from there, once you select the invocable action in Process Builder, you'll be able to add these two parameters. And then, of course, it's very important to work within the governor limits. So Process Builder can fire and process, hundreds or thousands of records at a time. So it's very important to bulkify your code and work within the Salesforce governor limits. So some more things to consider. Definitely, since this is a data-driven process, it's very important that we have data integrity in our org. This could be the difference between your actions executing correctly or even executing at all. So you need to be confident in the values that you're referencing. So typically, I like to avoid using text fields or anything like that. I like to use pick lists or number thresholds just because those values are more predictable. All right, so what does this have to do with Salesforce? We'll get into that in a little bit. But first off, what is DocuSign? So I'm going to be covering an overview of what DocuSign is, and then of course how this is all related. So first things first, DocuSign delivers a fast, secure, and easy way to make your documents digital. So you can, let me get more in depth with that. So our number one goal is to help you convert your paper processes and make them digital so you can close deals faster. So a show of hands here, who has ever had to print and sign a document and then send it back in the mail or anything like that? It's horrible, isn't it? Imagine if we could just do all of that, from our email. So we can, open a document, sign it there, and then we don't have to worry about it from that point. In addition to this, we can reduce errors and improve compliance. So, we have a deep integration with Salesforce, and, the two systems can communicate back and forth. So let's say you have a document that requires the user to fill out information. We can now take that information and then, update a record or create a new record in Salesforce referencing that. And of course, streamlining workflow processes. So we're able to control how the document moves from person to person. So you can set up, complex routing kind of things. So like, let's say you have a sales manager who always needs to sign off on a document or a contract before, go to the actual customer. You can set all of that up in Salesforce or DocuSign for Salesforce. So out of the box, this is what we have. This is what we have for Lightning. So if you notice, there is a Send with DocuSign button. And then below that, we have a status component. But today, I'm also going to be focusing on the actual sending portion. So upon clicking Sending, we're going to reference a lot of the information that's on this opportunity. So we can have opportunity contact roles that can be referenced for recipients, and then of course we can add files and attachments. So if you were to click Send with DocuSign, you'll be taken here. So on this particular opportunity, let's say I had a document called Agreement, and then I had an opportunity contact role for Mike Ross. And then below that, you can start changing what the actual email would look like. So you can say, this is the subject that this person should receive, and then this is the message. And then going back, you can add documents from a lot of different sources. So you can upload documents directly, of course, pull in the documents from the record, or reference DocuSign templates. And then recipients, same kind of thing. You can reference objects in Salesforce, so users, leads, contacts, or ad hoc, and add the person manually. So if you were to click Next, you'll be taken to the tagging page. This is where a lot of the magic happens in DocuSign for Salesforce. So here we have the ability to add text fields where people can populate information. We can add the signing tag, so it'd be like sign here, and then of course we can also display data from the record. So we have a lot of out-of-the-box customization, but we want to continue to improve on that. So our goal is to allow users to create and send DocuSign envelopes using pre-configured templates. We also want to give admins or developers the ability to standardize the experience for their users in Salesforce and the end users who are actually signing the document. So, making life easier to where you don't have to manually go in and add those documents and recipients every time is definitely our goal. And then of course we want to create a flexible solution that works for businesses of all scales. So I think the closest thing we have to this kind of standardization right now is JavaScript custom buttons. So here you can define some of the properties of the envelope using JavaScript, and then it'll generate a URL with those properties. So you can say, I want to send a envelope that has this email subject. I want to send it to this person, and this person might be a signer or just receive a copy, and then I want to add specific documents as well. But of course, there are a lot of limitations to this. We've heard a lot of complaints from customers. It requires the use of JavaScript. Not everyone is comfortable using that. You have some admins in the audience as well. And then of course it requires a lot of testing. This isn't the most elegant thing to look at, especially if you have a lot of advanced logic. It can get a little confusing. So it requires a lot of testing before you can be confident in what you're sending. And the idea is that what you're actually sending is really important. So being confident is an absolute must. You can send out the wrong contract or send it to the wrong person or something like that. So we decided to change things up a little bit and go with a UI-driven approach. So this is native Lightning custom buttons in Lightning. So we wanted to move away from that JavaScript-dependent approach, create a solution that's flexible for businesses of all sizes, or admins or developers of all levels of expertise. Can I get a show of hands of how many of you guys are DocuSign for Salesforce customers? Cool. How many of you guys use custom buttons right now? Okay, cool. A few of you guys. So we really wanted to make this experience a lot easier. From here you can change some of those properties of an envelope. So you could give it a subject, a message. You can add recipients. So it's very important to note here, when you add recipients on this level, this person will always receive this document. So this would be a good use case for my example earlier, like with having a sales manager. So if this sales manager always needs to sign off on it, I'll add them here. And then of course you can add documents. So we have an experience where you can upload documents or use DocuSign templates. And then of course we have some advanced settings below. So we didn't want to just migrate over to Lightning. We wanted to make the overall experience better. So we decided to expose all of this information via reports. So the idea is, when a DocuSign envelope is sent, it represents something. It represents a milestone. It could be, an NDA for a recruiting candidate. It could be, a sales contract for an opportunity. But either way, it's it's very important. So you want to be able to track that. So we want to be able to answer some of those questions, like how many agreements did my team send out this month? How many agreements did each sales rep send out? What's the status of my envelopes in flight? So you have two reports here that I added to my layout. So you can see that there are 3 that are completed, and then 1 that's sent, and then of course envelopes sent by user. So there are 2 ways of actually consuming this. One would be, kind of like the similar approach to what we have now, adding a button to the layout, except it's a lot easier. We only have 2 parameters that we really have to worry about: source ID and then button ID. So button ID would be a reference to the record that we created. So that custom button UI is actually a record. So we built a component on top of it to make the editing experience a lot better. So you would add that button ID, and then of course it would show up on the layout. But what if we already know all the information? What if we know we want to send this and we want to send it now? We can leverage Process Builder. So data-driven sending. So obviously the idea behind this is to make everything automatic. In doing so, it's important to create a flexible solution that's easy for everyone to use and scalable for businesses of all scales. So we decided to add it in Process Builder. So what do we have here? So on the right or left, we have where we have criteria defined. So let's say it's an opportunity. So I can say when this opportunity is closed won, send this agreement, right? And then the actual invocable action, we would just put in the button ID, and then of course the reference to the source ID. So I'm going to show you guys a demo. Oops. Hold on a second. All right, so today I'm going to be a recruiter. We have this guy, Bob Johnson. He applied to our company, Acme, and we're going to go ahead and send him an offer letter. But of course, we don't want to, do that manually. We want to have it be a data-driven process. So I created a process builder, and as you can see, we have two different criteria branches. So the first would be a sales offer letter. So obviously, if this candidate was a salesperson, we would send them, certain agreements. That might include like, the offer letter that's personalized for sales, or any other documents. And then beneath that, we have an engineering criteria branch. So obviously, here documents may vary. And then underneath both actions, I have a additional action to post something to Chatter. So I could say, after this is sent, I want to post to Chatter to, confirm that this actually happened. All right, so I already went ahead and set these up. So I have two different agreements here that I'm leveraging. Let's take a look at those. So first, the sales offer letter. So we have a specific email subject, and then a tailored message, and then below that we added our sales or head of human resources manager, Gina, and then of course a offer letter. So the difference between these two agreements actually is that the engineer needs the NDA in addition to the job offer letter. So we can go here. So that would be the main difference. And then obviously the email message and then the subject is a little different as well. So let's see when this would actually fire. So here I have two custom fields that I created, one called job category, and then the other one called recruiting stage. So recruiting stage would be like, if this person is doing a phone screen or an interview, and then the other field, job category, it's pretty much like what department they'll be working in. So pretty much when this pick list value is changed to offer letter, and they're a sales candidate, they'll get this offer letter. And then for engineering, obviously, the main difference is job categories engineering. So let's go back to our contact. Let's take a look at him here. All right, so he already received an offer letter, but let's pretend like that's not there. So let's say he's interviewing. After that, we call him. We're like, hey, what do you think? You want to accept this job? He says yes. Hold on a second. Can't really see. And his job category is engineering. So if we were to now move this to offer letter, click save. First things first, we get our chatter message confirming that this process was initiated. And then if we were to go over to the inbox, should be getting, so we have two. So you get this personalized DocuSign envelope that's catered specifically to the type of candidate it is. So if I click review, wasn't expecting that. Most of you guys, most of you guys already are familiar with the DocuSign signing experience, so no need to go into depth there. Oh, all right, let me. This whole double screen thing is kind of weird. Oh, of course you're gonna do that. Oh, this is wonderful. Huh. It's probably a more efficient way I could have done this. All right, demo recap. So, there's one thing I forgot to do actually. So after we send off that agreement, let's say we want to track that somehow. We can go back to our agreement that we set up, and I added these standard Salesforce report components to my layout, and this is for tracking purposes. So these are just standard reports. So if I were to click refresh, now we see that 3 are sent a few out earlier. We can see how many were sent by user, and then envelopes sent by the month. So this is a really powerful tool. It can be used, for accountability, seeing, okay, this is how many agreements we have. And then of course, like I said earlier, this agreement means something. So maybe we need this to be completed before we can initiate another process. Or maybe we're collecting payments directly, because that's a feature of ours now. Let's go back here. All right. That's what I did wrong. All right, so we were able to create and edit a custom button seamlessly, reference this button in an invocable action, and then after the envelope was sent, we were able to measure what happened in using Salesforce reports. Additional information. Oh, okay. So we're going to be at booth 31. This functionality should be available sometime, I would say, early next year. We have a few more talks about this as well. We have a talk at the W today, I think around 12, and I'll be going more in depth into that. And then we have a few other talks. So any questions or feedback, anything? Sure.
Is there any way that we can restrict the user from selecting the document? Like we have a CPQ integration with Salesforce, and CPQ puts in the contract, and the user, we are giving an option for the user to change the document, right? He can attach something else. Is there any way that we can restrict that and basically make sure that that process is automated?
So are you talking about actually setting up the agreement template?
We don't want them to change the document. Yeah, you can say that, yes.
Yeah, so you can completely restrict all of that. So there are two different fronts. So let's say there's a document on the opportunity itself.
Yeah,
we could say don't pull in any documents or don't pull in any additional recipients. We can restrict what is actually being sent.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, sure.
Can you talk a little bit about how the event is captured? Is it something that should be set up?
Sorry, what was that?
You provide a little bit more description about how the event is captured, the fact that the document was sent or signed. Is it something that the user should do and it should be configured, or is it already exists out of the box functionality?
So that would be using Connect. So we have a tool in the main DocuSign website where you can say, if this event happens, and write back to Salesforce. So then we also have an object called status, which captures all of that information. So when the envelope is sent, it'll say sent, and then once it's completed, it'll write back and say, this envelope was completed. And then of course you can get a lot of detailed information about the actual routing. So let's say there are 10 different signers, you could see when each signer, when each individual signer, completes his portion. Cool. Any other questions? Sure.
So we have a lot of custom buttons, and are they not going to work?
Oh, no. So we have no plan in deprecating or removing JavaScript custom buttons. Eventually you want to have, full feature parity. So we want to, give you guys the experience or option to switch over to this, native Lightning experience. But yeah, there's no plan to remove that functionality.
So the custom buttons will work for Lightning?
Yeah.
The JavaScript buttons, I don't think they will work in Lightning though.
Oh, no, not the JavaScript buttons. So we have, you can do the same thing with URL buttons, but of course that's limited if you want to do any kind of like, custom logic as far as like, using JavaScript. But yeah, URL custom buttons are available.
But not the Java buttons?
Not the JavaScript, no.
But we would be able to replace what we're doing with those through what you've just shown us?
Yes.
If you guys got questions, go up to the mic. This is being recorded. So if you go to the mic, we can record it. Thank you.